Good morning, welcome to Catex TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, October 15th, 2014. You can follow us on Twitter at Catex TV. Bermuda is in the path of Hurricane Gonzalo. It's a Category 3 storm. It's packing winds right now, sustained winds of about 125 miles per hour. The storm is expected to pass about 23 miles away from Bermuda, which is classified as a direct hit on Friday at 5 p.m. Bermuda time. According to meteorologists, the actual track indicates that the storm is passing to the west of the island. That places the northeast quadrant of the hurricane over Bermuda. As it passes, this quadrant has the strongest winds due to the combination of the circulation of winds around the eye of the hurricane being in the same direction as the forward motion of the hurricane. Bermuda, of course, was hit on Sunday by Tropical Storm Faye. The Royal Gazette in Hamilton is reporting that there are lines of people outside of supermarkets and food stores buying canned goods and water. We'll keep an eye on this. Obviously, there's a strong reinsurance presence in Bermuda. Tropical Storm Ana, A-N-A, is churning away in the Pacific Ocean about 700 miles east-southeast of the big island of Hawaii. It's about 900 miles east-southeast of Honolulu. According to the National Weather Service, it's expected that by this weekend, the storm will intensify to a hurricane and will be threatening the Hawaiian Islands. We'll keep an eye on this as well. A second healthcare worker at the Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas has now tested positive for Ebola. In the United States, the cable news stations are all Ebola all the time. The unidentified healthcare worker had treated the Liberian man who tested positive and subsequently died of the disease. The first nurse diagnosed with Ebola is apparently doing well. She's in isolation in the same hospital. In total, about 70 hospital staff members were involved in the care of the deceased patient, Mr. Duncan. The fact that the healthcare workers, who apparently were taking all medical precautions, including wearing those spacesuits and rubber gloves and masks, is raising some concerns that the precautions that have been put in place to counter transmission of the disease may not be satisfactory. Hong Kong's most prominent businessman and the richest man in the island, Ka-shing, last night urged protesters who have occupied part of the city now for about a month to go home. This is after police mounted their toughest action against the democracy activists in more than about a week. Police arrested about 45 protesters in the early hours of today, using pepper spray against those who resisted. However, footage showing the police beating a protester went viral, sparking outrage amongst lawmakers. The police say that the officers involved in the incident have been suspended. Lee, who is Asia's richest man and chairman of the property developer Chung Kong, has made no public comment on the demonstrations during the time that they've been occurring, but he broke his silence today to say if Hong Kong's rule of law broke down, it would be the city's greatest sorrow. He referred to the 1997 handover of the colony from the British to the Chinese as saying, since the handover, the quote, one country, two system formula has protected Hong Kong's lifestyle. Yesterday in the old library at Lloyd's, Andrew Kendrick, the president of ACE Europe, said that traditional players in the reinsurance industry must become more consumer-focused if they are going to respond adequately to the threat of alternative capital providers. He said they should not become complacent. He said they need to wake up to the value of superior service. He said one effect of new capacity on the London market will be to separate the men from the boys. He compared the challenges faced by the London reinsurance market to Uber's entrance into the city's taxi service. Uber, of course, has been seen as a threat by licensed taxi industry members throughout Europe. He said, quote, look at the fear that Uber has struck into the hearts of cabbies and then think about the challenges that we face here. He noted that the total cat bonds outstanding stood at over $22 billion, a flood of capacity into the market that he described as, quote, almost biblical in its proportion. The rapid downward march of airline rates apparently stopped in September, with carriers forced to pay more for their cover. This is according to JLT. However, the target increases in the October renewals are a little bit short of what everybody had been hoping, Sources indicate that underwriters have been hoping to see aggregate rate increases of about 30%. They've only seen increases of about 7%, excuse me, which is an improvement considering that there have been 15 to 20% declines in each of the years leading up to this for the past 4 years. One thing that has begun to occur, according to JLT, is something called differentiation, meaning that safer carriers are getting preferred rates than carriers that are perceived as not safe. Underwriters are underwriting again, and the differentiating factors affecting each risk will have a much greater impact. Exposure reductions are going to affect rates. Exposure growth is no longer for free, and loss history will be heavily scrutinized for each risk. Isn't that a good thing? If you're a safe airline, you should have a lower reinsurance premium rate? One would think so. 12 more bodies have been recovered in the central mountains of Nepal this morning. This has now taken the confirmed death toll from a heavy snowfall to 16 people. Nearly 170 people were involved in an organized trek northward through the Thorang La Pass along the well-traveled Annapurna route when the snowstorm hit. 60 people who have been rescued have been admitted to the hospital for exposure. A number of international casualties have been seen, including Israelis and Poles, and of course Nepalis. The Israeli Foreign Ministry is still indicating that several of its citizens are missing. Last night in Kansas City, the Kansas City Royals moved to within 1 game of the World Series. They are ahead of the Baltimore Orioles 3-0. Wouldn't that be something? That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.